Back then, there were children. An entire garden full of children. And a single tree arrayed with apples. One apple for every child. Every single one. And I was their guide, their Sherlock Holmes of sorts, helping them find the clues to the seen things, the blues, the reds, the oranges and greens, and the unseen things, the sweets, the sours, the umamis, and oh, those sounds, the crackles and creaks, gargles and trickles, and later even, the countable and uncountable things, the cleverly built and the stubbornly unbuildable things, the letters, the numbers, and the mystery of reading each other's minds. Sherlock, sheer luck, having the children with me, that is. Until dear Watson, my heavy-hearted, downcast assistant, entered this busy world of bumbling, buzzing bees, and that is when, my friends, it all came tumbling down. For as long as I can remember, there had always been children, 1, 2, 3-year-olds, riddling around with the curiousness and clumsiness of wandering without wondering, distracted by every stray sound, stain, and odd but familiar scent, seeping into the rivulets in their brains, sponges, soaking in every sense-filled drop. 3-year-olds were not a bit curious about the tree, but 4-year-olds, oh, to be 4, intentionally reckless in their wandering, trampling every sorry sapling on their way to the tree, and then arriving, seriously questioning why they had wondered about it from so far away. Because up close, the tree was so much bigger, threatening, and now those round red things poking out of the leaves looked so far away, so unreachable. And so they turned away. And then there was Emily. No longer 3, no longer 4, but triumphantly 5. Dearest Emily, after 4 years of toddling and tippling around the tree, she was very ready to see an apple up close. So she waited patiently below it, willing it to fall into her hands so she could finally get a closer look and inspect its elusive mystery. Yes, back then there were children, and a tree arrayed with apples, 1 apple for every child, every single one. The higher-ups and the lower downs had passed the guardianship of the tree down to me through oral tradition and more years of experience than I could count. Surely I'd been in training since, well, at least since I tasted my own apple. The children themselves had taken over most of the lesson giving to the little ones, and it was only the tree I had to watch over carefully. The waves and strings of clues to new and more riddly mysteries kept us so occupied, we quite naturally forgot all about the higher-ups and lower-downs. They kind of faded from our memory because, well, honestly, between you and me, the backward-lookings were not at all motivating compared to the onward-seekings and the joy of reveling in our unravelings before knitting up and onward-seeking again. But the day Watson appeared to me like a fish out of water, asking to assist me in the guardianship of the tree, the mentorship began in earnest. My first speech went a bit like this. Watson, a lesson is an offering, a gift, a rough draft, a guide, not a teaching. The skill is knowing when the child is ready for the lesson, physically, mentally, and spiritually. Until you get the gist of this, you must only give a lesson with my explicit permission. Listen, Watson, the price for any mistake in timing is too great a price to pay in damages and danger. Listen, if I give the lesson too soon, the child becomes so frustrated, she's furious and hates her new task. Most times, she tramples it in disgust, and sometimes refuses to ever try again. If I give the child a lesson too late, it becomes meaningless, trivial, hardly worth his attention. And he goes on without giving a whit about actually missing out on the tastiest morsel of mystery he may ever get the chance to know. These gaps, Watson, become blind spots for the child, instigators of chaos in his relationships with the other children. Pay attention. One rule, Watson, one rule. Do not give a lesson without my permission. And Watson closed her eyes and nodded her head. But Watson, my friends, was impetuous and proved herself quite untrustworthy. She could not follow my one command, and as time passed, I would find her giving lessons to 3-year-olds who had not the dexterity nor the willpower to follow through. And they would grow hot with mad frustration, hurling tools across the garden, damaging everything in their path. No, they were not ready. She would offer a 5-year-old the same lesson he'd mastered on his own months before, drilling him with self-doubt. For why would the teacher show him something he already knew how to do, unless he'd been doing it wrong? And with this, Watson crushed the child's spirit, and he wanted nothing to do with it ever again, for fear he would always do it wrong. And then the fateful day came for Emily. Emily, my friends, was right at the edge of the most exquisite mystery of all. I had her lesson planned for that very morning, and my eagerness to bring her to the apple on the tree was only tempered by my knowing that it had to be timed at the exact moment of the apple's prime and perfumed ripeness. The perfect moment for Emily to grasp the fullness of its mystery. I turned for just a split second, distracted by the newest child in the garden, the youngest, clinging to me to avoid being toppled by the other children bawling and buzzing around. And then I saw it. Watson giving Emily the lesson. Plucking an apple, not even the one that was designed specifically for Emily, like it were some random act, just another task. And Watson saw me see her. She gave me a look, a smug look of self-satisfaction. She knew what she was doing. My heart skipped a beat. I couldn't breathe. Emily, there, eating the wrong apple. The apple not even ripe enough for the child it had been intended for. My dearest, lovely Emily, utterly dumbfounded, disappointed, defeated. This is what she'd been waiting for? Willing with all her might to fall ripened into her outstretched hand all these years? And here it was, torn out of the tree by a Watson and shoved at her. Eat it! That's all Watson had said. And Emily, fearful but curious, confused yet trusting, I had never warned her not to trust. And she ate because she was told to. She was told it was time to. Told. If only I could turn back time and fix it. Had I only beaten Watson to the game. Had I not been distracted. Had I invited Emily to come with me to the tree that morning, remembering to bring with me all of those thin rolls of birch bark and a piece of sharpened graphite, remembering to kneel and unfold the quilt, inviting her to sit with me, remembering to lay out all the pretty natural objects she knew the names of, a flower, a leaf, a twig, a stone, a moon sliver, a water drop, a star mote, and to say in the quietest of voices like a whisper, Emily, I'm going to think of only one of these objects on the quilt before you, but instead of telling you what I'm thinking of, I'm going to do something different, something else, but you will still know which one I'm thinking of. And then I would write down slowly and carefully a name. L-E-A-F. And I would place the slice of birch bark with the 4 letters in front of her, and she would sound it out loud with a startled, open look of awe on her face. Leaf? And I would hold in my sheer joy at witnessing her very first discovery of a secret way of communication, a mysterious form of transmission of thought that could remain an eternal secret between her and I if she did so choose. And I would say, yes, Leaf, that is exactly the one I was thinking of. You, dearest Emily, have read my mind. And she would place the slice of birch bark with the writing upon it next to the leaf, and tears would stream down her face, and the apple would drop into her open hand. And she would cherish it, her first taste of wisdom, uniquely designed for her, her very own. And one by one, the children would reach their time. And one by one, I would invite each child to the tree, and one by one, each apple would fall ripe into each eager hand, and one by one, each child would taste the wisdom at his or her time. And it would be good. It would always, always